Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor, crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. A Republican plan to reopen the Department of Homeland Security without funding ICE operations is teetering. Jeff Murdoch and Lindsey McPherson report President Trump said he is not happy with the plan, and Democrats said they can't vote for it without additional changes. Senate Republicans sent Democrats the text of the bill to fund 94% of the department, excluding roughly half of ICE's budget, specifically $5.5 billion for its enforcement and removal operations division. They thought the president had signed off on the plan during a White House meeting with some GOP senators Monday night. The president said he would not commit to signing the partial funding measure until he saw the proposal, reiterating his desire to tie DHS funding to a Republican election bill. As the president's troubles pile up, Democrats are capitalizing on high gas prices, long airport lines, and a war with Iran that most Americans say should never have started. Seth MacLachlan reports Democrats are also seizing on broader anxieties in a midterm election year about overseas spending and the cost of living, placing the blame squarely on the president. Trump's standing with voters continues to erode. According to the Real Clear Politics average of polls, voters disapprove of his handling of inflation, 61% to 36%, and the economy, 58% to 39%. The slide has been driven in part by collapsing support among independents. Pentagon officials say low-cost alternatives to the multi-million-dollar missiles the U.S. is using in its war against Iran are still years away. John Seward reports the war has burned through complex weapons that cannot be replaced quickly or affordably enough to maintain the Pentagon's usual stockpiles. Military officials told a Senate Armed Services Committee briefing cheaper munitions are on the long-term horizon, but the U.S. industrial base still needs time to scale up to the Defense Department's increasing needs. The U.S. is relying heavily on expensive missiles to shoot down cheap Iranian drones in the conflict, presenting a major cost problem. The Supreme Court is being asked to decide whether migrants who reach the vicinity of the border but remain in Mexico or Canada are entitled to the same protections as someone clearly in the United States. Stephen Dinan reports the justices struggle with where to draw the line, if not at the actual border. Under the law, asylum is available to someone who is already present or who arrives in the country. Immigration advocates told the High Court that the law stretches beyond U.S. soil to reach into Mexico or Canada, with one attorney saying being on the threshold is good enough. At issue is a policy first adopted during the Obama administration that restricted the number of asylum seekers allowed to apply at official U.S. ports of entry. And finally, initiatives to ban transgender athletes from girls' sports will appear on the ballot in 3 Democratic-controlled states this fall. Valerie Richardson reports Colorado Initiative 109 would require associations governing K-12 and collegiate scholastic sports to designate teams as male, female, or co-ed. Teams for girls and women would be open only to students with female reproductive biology. In Maine, a proposal would require student athletes to compete based on sex at birth as shown on the original birth certificate, and an initiative in Washington state would ban biologically male students from female sports based on physical exams that student athletes already must take before competing. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.